You've heard the words before. Love your neighbor as yourself. You've seen them on signs, whispered in sermons and stitched into quilts. They sound beautiful. They sound simple. But I wonder, have you ever let them get all the way in? Not just in your ears, but into your hands, into your schedule, into the way you treat the person who frustrates you the most. You see, when I gave that command, I wasn't offering poetry. I was revealing the very heartbeat of the Father. A love so wide it includes the stranger, so deep it reaches the wounded, and so strong it even embraces enemies. The words I spoke that day were not new. My people had heard them for generations. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You'll find it in the scrolls, Leviticus 19. But by the time I walked the earth, that command had been trimmed and tamed. People loved those who looked like them, thought like them, worshiped like them. Everyone else, forgotten, feared, or worse, labeled as unclean. So I spoke the command again, fresh, full, and fiery. And I knew what they'd ask next. But who's my neighbor? That question, it wasn't born from hunger to love more. It came from the human tendency to draw borders around compassion, to make love manageable. But real love, my love, was never meant to fit in safe lines. So let me show you what I meant. Let me take you back to the day that someone asked me that question, trying to test me. He stood up with confidence, the kind that comes from knowing the law by heart, but not yet knowing the heart of the lawgiver. Teacher, he asked me, what must I do to inherit eternal life? I saw his eyes. I saw his mind working, sharp, trained, and proud. But I also saw something deeper, a man searching for the edges of obedience, wanting to be righteous, but only so far. So I asked him a question of my own. What is written in the law? How do you read it? He answered well. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You've answered correctly, I said. Do this and you will live. But still, he wanted to justify himself. That's when he asked the real question behind his religion. And who is my neighbor? Not, how do I love better? Not, where is God leading me to show mercy? No, he wanted to know the limits. He wanted to know how small he could make the circle of love and still be considered good. But love, true love, doesn't shrink, it stretches. So I didn't argue or give him a lecture. Instead, I gave him a story, because stories slip past the defenses. Stories reveal the truth of the heart before the mind can argue it. I could see the road in my mind, the dry wind, the steep drop, the sharp turns where bandits like to hide. A man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. He wasn't foolish, he was just moving from one place to another, and still he was attacked, stripped, beaten, and left for dead. On that road, half dead might as well be all dead. No one stops, no one risks it. But someone came, a priest, robes flowing, scriptures memorized, lips shaped like prayers. He saw the man and moved to the other side. He didn't hate him. He didn't help him. He just walked on. Then a Levite came, holy lineage, temple worker, raised to know right from wrong. He looked, he hesitated, and then he too crossed over and kept walking. But then a Samaritan came, the one they all looked down on, the outsider, the heretic, the one my people despised. And he stopped. He didn't just see a body, he saw a brother. He got down from his animal, he knelt, and he poured oil on the wounds and wrapped them with cloth. He lifted the man, broken bloodied, and placed him on his own donkey. Step after step, he walked while the stranger rode. And when they reached the inn, he didn't hand him off like a burden. He paid for his rest, promised to cover more, took full responsibility. That is love. Not words, not religion, not intention. Compassion that costs something. Then I looked at the man who had asked me the question. Which of these three, I said, proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among robbers? And he answered quietly, the one who showed him mercy. I met his eyes. I met his soul. Go, I said, and do likewise. What he didn't want to acknowledge was that the Torah wasn't meant to be a wall, it was meant to be a doorway. And at the center of that doorway, etched deep like fire into stone, were two truths. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. You can find them in the scrolls, Deuteronomy 6 and Leviticus 19. They weren't new ideas when I said them, but they had been forgotten, buried under rules, rituals, and pride. Some tried to love God without loving people. Others tried to love people without knowing God. But I came to say you cannot separate them. Love is not divided. It flows from heaven into your soul, from your soul into your neighbor, and back again. When you love your neighbor, you are echoing the very nature of God. When you choose compassion over convenience, when you choose mercy over judgment, when you choose them over you, that's when heaven rejoices. Some of you still believe your neighbor is the one who agrees with you, but love doesn't need agreement to act. It just needs a heart willing to be broken open. When I said love your neighbor, I wasn't calling you to affection. I was calling you to sacrifice. Not polite smiles, not shallow words, not comfortable, convenient kindness. I meant a love that costs. I meant the kind of love that touches leprous skin, that eats with tax collectors, that lets a weeping woman wash my feet with her tears in full view of those who judged her. I meant the love that walks miles just to sit at a well with a Samaritan woman, not to shame her, but to restore her dignity and call her into truth. I meant the kind of love that forgives the one who drove in the nails. The kind of love that says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That's what I meant. Love doesn't look away from pain, it steps into it. Love doesn't protect reputation, it risks it. When others demand stoning, I offer mercy. When crowds shouted for a miracle, I gave them bread. When my disciples fell asleep in the garden, I still called them friends. And when the weight of all sin crushed me to the ground, I carried the cross anyway. That's what neighborly love looks like. Not because they deserve it, not because they'll love you back, but because this is how my Father loves. And if you follow me, that same love must take root in you. Let me ask you something now, not to shame you, but to reveal you. Who is the one person you still walk around, not towards? Is it the neighbor with loud opinions? The sibling who betrayed you? The stranger who lives differently, votes differently, and prays differently? Is it the addict who relapsed again? The ex you refuse to speak of? The face you scroll past because it reminds you of a pain you don't want to revisit? You see, it's easy to love those who love you back. Even tax collectors can do that. But I told you to love your enemies, to bless those who curse you, to pray for those who hurt you. Not because it's fair, but because that's what I did. I didn't just teach this from a hillside, I lived it. I washed the feet of the one who would betray me. I offered a place at my table to the one who would deny me. I spoke gently to the thief who hung beside me. even as I died. And now I'm asking you to do the same. Not all at once, but one heart-opening, pride-laying, spirit-led act at a time. Not because you're worthy, but because you were loved when you weren't either. So I'll ask again, who are you still avoiding? And what might happen if instead of crossing the road, you knelt down beside them? Some of you are still waiting to feel love before you act in love. But love doesn't begin with feeling. It begins with a choice. Do you think I felt warmth when they mocked me? Do you think I felt peace when they crowned me with thorns? Do you think the cross was carried on a wave of happy emotions? No. Love carried it. Love chose it. Love is not sentiment. Love is strength. It is a decision again and again to lay down your pride, your comfort, your fear, and your convenience and say, I will see you, I will serve you, I will not turn away. Feelings may come, they may not. But obedience, real love, moves anyway. I told my disciples, if you love me, keep my commandments. Not, if you feel it, prove it. But if you choose me, follow me. Love is not proven in the passion of a moment, but in the persistence of mercy. So when it's hard, when you're tired, when they don't thank you, when you wonder if it matters at all, remember this. The Father sees you, and every act of love sown in obedience will bear fruit in eternity. You've asked, who's my neighbor? But now I ask you, whose neighbor will you be? You see, love doesn't wait to be approached. It moves first. That's what I did. I came to you long before you ever called me. So I'm inviting you. Step into the story now. You've heard the parable. You've seen the road. Now it's time for you to be the Samaritan. Be the one who sees what others pass by. Be the one who doesn't need permission to show mercy. Be the one who interrupts their schedule for someone else's healing. You don't need a title. You don't need perfection. You just need eyes willing to see and a heart willing to bend. I've placed people in your path. Some you recognize, others you've stepped around. But the road is still there, and so is the man in the ditch. Start small. Forgive the person who didn't say I'm sorry. Listen without rushing to respond. Feed someone hungry not just with food, but with presence. Sit beside someone who's been silenced. Defend the one who's been dismissed. When you do that, when you choose love like that, you become more than a follower of mine. You become a reflection of me. For I told you, whatever you did for the least of these, you did it for me. If this feels heavy, if you're thinking, I don't love like this, not yet, then you're finally seeing what I wanted you to see. I didn't tell you this to burden you. I told you this to invite you. You were not made to do this alone. You were made to walk with me, step by step, moment by moment. Let me teach you how to love again. Let me show you how the Father sees people. Let me soften what's grown hard. Let me heal what's been broken. You don't need to fix everything today. You only need to begin with one act of kindness, one neighbor forgiven, one road crossed, one stranger treated like family. If you fall, I will lift you. If you grow tired, I will carry you. If you forget, I will remind you. Just walk with me, that's all I ask. And as you do, your heart will begin to mirror mine. Love wide, love deep, love first, and love last. And when you forget how, come sit beside me again, and I will remind you what love looks like, because I am love.